Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I wanted to kind of experiment with some tissue paper today. Will it work in resin? We all know tissue paper is like super thin, rips and tears easily. And I just kind of wanted to see, will it work in resin? Will it not work in resin? Will it just kind of dissolve into nothing? I don't know. So let's check it out. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I've got 6 different colors, and I'm just going to kind of cut them into strips. And the reason for doing so is I need them, the mold's kind of on the smaller side, so I need them to be kind of small. And I want to, if it works out, to kind of punch as much color from these as I can. So I kind of went with more pastel-y, springy type colors. I did some purples and pinks and yellows and greens, and just kind of like your typical springtime, Easter time type color paper. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to ball every one of these up. Now, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be a tight ball. It doesn't have to be whatever. Like, I don't necessarily want it to stay in ball shape. I just kind of want to see what it's going to do and kind of do its own thing so that it's more organic type looking if it works. So after I go through all of these, and it does take a hot minute to do this because there's a lot, then I am going to take my resin, which it's already mixed up, degassing right now and doing its thing, and I'm just using my Nick Pro resin today. I'm gonna add couple of drops of this Marabou rainbow colored alcohol ink. It's like got the rainbow shimmer in it or whatever. Daniel Cooper uses it a lot on his channel. So I figured I'm going to use this just to kind of give a little bit of shimmer to my resin so it's not just straight clear. Now, I don't know if this tissue paper is going to bleed. I have no idea. So I don't want to color it. I just kind of want to see what it's going to do. Now I'm just kind of taking it and plopping it into my resin, mixing it up, and it's really weird. If you've not worked with tissue paper and resin, like, it's super fragile dry, right? But when you put it in resin, it gets this like weird stiffness that I don't know, like it's super weird. Like, the texture of it becomes really weird. It is super stiff, and like, I don't know, it just gets really weird on you. I know I keep saying weird a lot. It's just it really truly is. Like, I thought it would just kind of almost disintegrate, but it doesn't. It makes it stronger, which is crazy, right? Because you would think, yeah, it's resin and it's, honey consistency, but you would think it's still wet so that it would almost make the like, compromise the integrity of the tissue paper to make it fall apart, but it's not doing that at all. Okay, back to what I'm doing. Now I'm just kind of, I shoved some of the tissue paper down inside the little, it's like a potted plant type mold. It's got the bottom where, like, the water, I mean, obviously there's no holes in this one. I guess you would drill it. I'm not a plant person. I don't know. I have a black thumb when it comes to that. Like, everything I try, I kill. So I stay away from live plants. But it's got the little, like, tray thing on the bottom. And then this is the actual pot for it. I guess it would be something the size that you would put maybe succulents or something like that in. But I'm shoving it down. I shoved it down into the crevices around the little ring, the rim of the bottom part. Put some on top because I don't want it to be completely, like, see-through and transparent. I want to have this tissue paper in there to color it and give it different effects. Now with the pot, I'm doing the same thing. I'm taking the pieces, I'm shoving them down the sides of this, and just kind of working it in to get as much down there as I can. But I also have to make sure that there's enough room for the resin. And I'm not going to lie, guys, I made a hell of a mess all the way around on this thing. Like, it was just insane. I had resin everywhere, all of the time. It was ridiculous. So now I've just taken my dotting tool, shoving it down a little bit more. I'm not sure about the air bubbles. I mean, I did put it in resin first, trying to hopefully eliminate those air bubbles. But I don't know because it's just kind of staying clumped up, and like I said, that harder texture that it has. Now I'm putting some in dry, and I'm just kind of drizzling the resin on top of it to make it wet before I shove it in and kind of place it around the bottom of the mold. Again, I just want to get as much color in here as I can possibly get. And then I'm just going to fill up the mold with resin, work this stuff down, try and make it go flat, which it does not want to do, so that I don't have to sand. But it is what it is. It'll be fine, and we're just going to roll with it. Now, I mean, I do work with it for quite a while to try and get it to flatten out, and it's not going to work. It's not. It's fine. Topping it off after I hit it with my heat gun to pop any bubbles. And then we're going to zap it with the heat gun one more time just to make sure and get out as many bubbles as we can. And then, fingers crossed, hope that this works. Okay, 24 hours later, now these are all nice and dry, and you can see all the texture on it where those pieces just would not go down. So, sanding, here I come. Yay. It is unmolding nicely, and it did hold its color. It didn't bleed, so that's a plus. The shape thing, like, I mean, I said I wasn't worried about the shape. I should have been a little bit more specific in what I wanted, and said I don't mind about the shape until I get to the bottom, and then I want it flat, but it is what it is, and we'll just sand and make it flat and work it out. So I did, because I wasn't sure how this was going to demold, and I do have gloves on to demold this one because of all of the sharp edges on there. I'm not trying to cut myself because, let's all be real, we've all been cut by resin before, and it sucks, and it's always somewhere on your hand where it's just not a good place to have it. So I did spray alcohol in here to make it go easier, and it pops out with no problems whatsoever. So that's fantastic. That's always great when you don't have to fight with a mold. And let's see what we actually got this time. All right. So I think it turned out pretty cool looking. I like the colors. Now I did, on the bottom of it, I got a few pretty big bubbles that just got trapped. I'm pointing them out now. I don't know if you can see them or not, but they did get trapped underneath that tissue paper, but nothing that's like protruding or any holes and cracks actually in the resin. So it's fine. If you actually used it as a pot, you wouldn't notice anyway. All right, so now we're going to wet sand these pieces down, at least enough that I don't have big, like, protruding tissue paper coming out, because I'll go over it with some UV resin just to kind of flatten it all out, so I don't have to sand as long. So I'm just taking off like the big spots of it, making sure that as I'm sanding, I'm kind of every so many like ups and downs with my hand or whatever, I'm kind of shifting the piece so that the weight is going to be distributed kind of evenly, because you tend to put more weight on certain parts of your hand when you sand. So this way I don't have the sanding uneven, if that makes sense. All right, now on to my Lightwish UV resin, and I'm just going to take it to the edges of this very carefully and try and make this thing as flat as possible without this resin running over the sides. This piece I don't have any issues with. It turns out brilliant, and it's fine. No problems whatsoever. Now, the actual pot itself, on the other hand, I don't know what its issue was with me. Like, I just don't know. But it decided that it was going to run down the sides several times while curing, and, just be a pain in my ass the entire time. But like I said, this was a messy project from start to finish, so it didn't matter what I did. I was having issues. Topping it off just to make sure that it's up high enough that it's covering that last little bit of bumps that I left, and I'm going to put it under my UV lamp to kind of cure for about 5 minutes. My UV lamp doesn't go that high. It only goes to 150 seconds. So I'm just going to keep pushing that until about 5 minutes has passed. Now it's on to the big boy. All right. Doing the same thing. Now, this piece in particular, the tissue paper came out a lot higher. And I mean, I did sand it more than I had to sand the lid. But there were some bubbles. You know how we all tend to get bubbles on these type of molds, those tiny little pockets that just can't seem to get around that curvature of the mold. So I did have a few of those like on the bottom, and on some of them they're on like, because of the geometric kind of shape that this pot has, there's some on like the corners and the tips, and I don't know if that's what the problem was. Maybe I used too much resin at one time and broke the surface tension. I did hit my heat gun with it, so maybe that did it. I don't know, but it decided on several occasions that it was going to start running down the sides, which I had cleaned it up and made sure before I put it under my UV lamp that it wasn't dripping, and then I take it out and I've got big drips running down. So I don't know, guys. Like, I don't know. That's what I'm doing now. I'm checking it for drips and fixing anything, wiping it off to try and make it stop. And yeah, I don't know. It's fine though. It's fine. Okay, so as soon as I'm done fiddling, put this under the lamp, and then we're going to go on to the next step. Now, you know me, I like to go a little bit extra on all my pieces, and that's what I want to do to this one too. Like, it looks pretty, don't get me wrong. I do like it a lot. I like the effect that the tissue paper gives it, and I think that you could do a lot more with it, like in different molds and stuff like that, like as far as shapes and colors and whatnot, as opposed to just kind of balling it up and throwing it in like I did. Now, will it hold out to light? I don't know. I don't know if the colors will fade. I don't know. That's something that you'd have to test. But I decided that I want to kind of go around the edge with my rose gold marker and kind of just add a little bit of that. So I'm doing that to like the actual top of the bottom part of this mold, and then around the edges. Now, I don't like how the edges turned out very much. Like, the line's just wonky and stupid and not even. And it's because of all those little divots. And I started going too fast, not thinking about it. And like the marker would go flying and just be stupid. And yeah, it was a whole thing. I even at one point tried to wipe it off and say the hell with it. And then that didn't work either because I waited too long. So I had to do it. And then I did go along the top with on the big one too. Just the top part though. I didn't go around the edges. Now, I have these little horse-eye rhinestones that I do put on the big piece with my diamond glue. I don't know. My camera didn't record it. I don't know what its issue was. So I don't have that part, and I apologize for that. So this is pretty much it on this one, guys. The glamour shots are coming up. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. I will catch you guys on Thursday in the next one. Love ya. Bye.